My sister, Minnie, has always had a complicated relationship with me. Despite being only a year apart in age, she is 31 years old and I am 30, she has often expressed her jealousy towards me. This jealousy became painfully evident during what should have been a joyous occasion, my baby shower. Instead of celebrating with me, Minnie chose that day to announce fake paternity test results. Her intention was clear, she aimed to ruin the happiness of the moment. This shocking revelation did not only disrupt the festivities, but it also led to an unexpected and dramatic twist when her husband served her with divorce papers right in front of everyone. The entire event turned chaotic, overshadowing what was supposed to be a day filled with joy and love. As children, our relationship was tumultuous. I admired Minnie greatly and tried my best to be close to her, but she often pushed me away. Whenever we got into conflicts, her words could be harsh, and she would sometimes act out physically, whether by shoving me or pulling my hair. My parents would intervene and scold her for these actions because she was older and should know better. Despite my efforts to express my admiration and love for her, she seemed to resent me instead. She would openly say she disliked me, which deeply hurt. Minnie was always the more outgoing sibling, with a vibrant personality and a strong passion for the arts. She excelled in makeup, fashion, and all forms of creative expression. I, on the other hand, was more academically inclined, a fact that would cause tension between us. We started school at the same age due to my early academic development, but thankfully, we were not placed in the same classroom. This was a source of irritation for Minnie, who felt like she was in competition with my academic success. Many kids in our school didn't enjoy doing homework, which made my average grades of A's and B's shine in comparison to their typical Cs and Bs. While I pursued interests in music and languages, particularly the violin and French, Minnie's strengths lay in drama, cooking, sewing, and dance. She spent most of her evenings involved in school plays, thriving in that environment until a pivotal moment changed everything for her. After discovering her boyfriend cheating on her, she reacted violently, ultimately leading to her being kicked off the drama team. The consequences of that incident were severe. Although my parents intervened with the school and ensured the other girl received compensation, the event significantly impacted Minnie's life. She had to repeat 11th grade, and our parents were disappointed in her behavior for a long time. My relationship history has also been deeply affected by my sister's actions. The longest romantic connection I ever had lasted only 6 months, primarily due to the disruptions caused by Minnie. I wasn't actively looking for a serious relationship, but every time I found someone I liked, she would find a way to sabotage it. One of the most painful experiences involved a guy named Derek, whom I had been seeing for about 4 months. We were just about to take the next step and meet each other's parents when, out of nowhere, he blocked me on all platforms. Confused and hurt, I decided to confront him. I showed up at his house uninvited, determined to figure out why he had cut off communication. When I confronted Derek, he surprised me with the news that Minnie had contacted him. She had shared damaging stories about me, claiming I was untrustworthy and had been talking to other guys while dating him. She even accused me of sending inappropriate pictures to a male friend. Hearing this left me mortified and heartbroken. My sister's jealousy had once again overshadowed my happiness, this time affecting my chance at a meaningful relationship. The emotional toll of her actions weighs heavily on both my heart and my life. I was absolutely mortified when I first heard the accusations my sister had made about me. In that moment of shock, I felt compelled to defend myself and explain my side of the story. I tried to refute the claims she had made, but Derek, my boyfriend, appeared uncertain and confused. He looked at me with doubt and asked why my own sister would lie about me, especially about something so serious. It felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my heart, and I fought back tears as I explained to him that my sister had always struggled with jealousy toward me. I shared how she often tried to sabotage my relationships because of her insecurities. I was shocked to realize that she could stoop so low as to concoct such hurtful lies about me. Unfortunately, no matter how much I tried to salvage the situation, Derek expressed doubts about our relationship. He didn't want to be involved with someone who had a sister like Minnie, who seemed to bring nothing but trouble. I understood his feelings, as I often wished I could distance myself from her as well. My heart ached, and frustration bubbled inside me. I knew I had to confront my sister about her actions. After a heated exchange filled with yelling and anger, Minnie finally admitted that she felt insecure and jealous because I seemed to effortlessly attract good-looking guys. She confessed that it was always easy for me to find partners, and she resented me for it. She even claimed that she thought I was too good for Derek, which was why she made up those lies to drive him away from me. A wave of anger washed over me as I realized how her unresolved jealousy fueled her harmful actions. My parents reprimanded her and told her how wrong her behavior was, but it seemed she didn't genuinely care about the pain she caused. Ultimately, she got what she wanted, Derek and I were no longer together. This incident marked a significant turning point in my life, leading me to consider the possibility of moving away from her. I came to a stark realization: if I ever hoped to have a healthy and lasting romantic relationship, I needed to keep her at a distance. We had both dreamed of studying abroad, and I knew Minnie had immense potential. However, it appeared that fear or a lack of personal direction influenced her choice to pursue a degree in computer science in our home country, following our father's advice. Witnessing this made me realize that I didn't want my parents to dictate my future choices. So, I worked tirelessly to secure a scholarship to study abroad. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts, financial constraints held me back, leading me to compromise and start university in our home country, majoring in what I truly wanted. However, after a year, my determination to go abroad remained strong. I kept searching for opportunities and eventually secured a scholarship, allowing me to finally head overseas and restart my studies. My parents were sad about my decision to move away. On my last night at home, Minnie unexpectedly apologized for all the wrongs she had done to me throughout our childhood. I was unsure about her sudden change of heart. Perhaps it was because I was moving far away, and she'd have our parents to herself. Wanting to avoid any more drama, I decided to forgive her. During my time studying abroad, I underwent a significant transformation. I lost some weight, met new people, and discovered my personal style, gaining newfound confidence in the process. Graduating was a major milestone for me, but the year that followed was challenging as I struggled to find a job. Eventually, I landed a good position and settled down in my new life. Meanwhile, Minnie completed her bachelor's degree in our home country. She expressed her desire to come and study in the same country I was in for her master's degree, and I encouraged her to pursue that path. She began applying for different scholarships, but her applications kept getting rejected. Frustration grew within her, and she eventually came to visit me, staying for 10 days so I could show her around. During her visit, she noticed how much I had changed. Whenever she made sly remarks about my clothes or hair, I brushed them off. I found it odd how she still tried to control what I wore or how I behaved in public. If we went out for lunch or if I had friends over, she would share her dislike for them and insist I needed better company. There were instances when I was enjoying myself with friends, only for her to suddenly become withdrawn without any clear reason. When I took her to work and showed her around, I hoped that she would understand my life better. When I showed her where I was working, she seemed taken aback by the size of my office. It was much larger than she had expected, and I couldn't help but share my excitement about the opportunities one had been given in my career. I spoke passionately about how these experiences were helping me grow professionally. However, to my surprise, she became quiet and her expression changed. Instead of sharing in my happiness, she shifted the focus back to herself. She expressed a desire to have the same kinds of opportunities and began to lament some of her past choices that she regretted. Later that evening, during dinner, she told me that she wanted to extend her vacation and live with me a bit longer. However, I knew that sharing my space with her would be uncomfortable. I sensed that her judgment was becoming too much for me to handle. I politely suggested that it would be better for her to find alternative accommodations if she wished to stay longer. I felt that her lingering resentment towards me was affecting us both, and she was unwilling to openly discuss her feelings. This is when Minnie lost her composure. She started yelling at me, expressing her frustrations about having me in her life. She felt overwhelmed by how everyone seemed to compare her achievements to mine, making her feel like she never measured up. In that moment, I pointed out that I had never treated her that way. It was she who had always made me feel less than. Minnie then claimed that I was not anything special and that if she had received the same opportunities, she could have achieved the same level of success. I reminded her that we had both grown up in similar environments and that I had worked hard to apply to universities and secure scholarships, while she had not been able to do the same and was now blaming me for her choices. This revelation made her even angrier, and she accused me of being a spoiled brat, wishing that I had never been born. Her words stung deeply, and I felt a wave of hurt wash over me. Unable to handle the conversation any longer, I got up from the table and locked myself in my room. 2 days later, Minnie left for her home without ever apologizing. With her absence, I finally felt a sense of relief and the freedom to breathe again. I took a moment to reflect on how much our relationship had changed over the years. I had begun to feel a growing dislike for her presence, recognizing that our paths had diverged significantly. Eventually, I met a new person named James, who worked in the same industry as I did. Our paths crossed frequently, and we had mutual friends. At a gathering, we enjoyed a few drinks together, and it felt refreshing to talk to someone who really understood my work. I initially thought we would be friends, but James showed interest in me and asked me out the very next day. We started dating and spent 2 wonderful years together before he proposed to me. James was close to his family, who lived in the same country, and he had even met my parents through video calls. While we were planning our wedding, I received an offer for a new job that would double my current salary. The only catch was that the new position was located in my home country. After discussing it with James, we agreed that this was an incredible opportunity for my career, so I decided to accept the job. This move allowed me to return to my home country, where my family finally met my fiancée. My parents were thrilled to meet James, and it warmed my heart to see my father spending Sundays golfing with him. My new job was going well, and James eventually found a new job as well. During this period, Minnie avoided me completely. She refused to meet either me or James, despite my parents' insistence. She constantly came up with excuses to stay away. I understood her hesitation. It had been a long time since we had spoken, and truthfully, I did not mind her absence. I worried that she might try to ruin my relationship with James, as she had done in the past with other relationships. After settling down in my home country, James and I made the decision to get married. We booked plane tickets for his parents and grandparents to ensure they could be present for our special day. Our plan was to have a small, intimate wedding that included only our family and a few close friends, followed by a short honeymoon since both of us had demanding work schedules. We decided to host our wedding in the spacious backyard of my parents' house, and they were overjoyed about this choice. On our wedding day, our grandparents, parents, siblings, and friends shared heartfelt speeches filled with love and blessings for us. However, the only person missing from our celebration was Minnie. She claimed that she had come down with a fever which kept her from attending. Minnie claimed she couldn't attend my wedding because of her own issues, which seemed a little vague to us. Meanwhile, the wedding itself turned out to be fantastic. The food was amazing, and everyone danced joyfully until midnight. It was a celebration filled with laughter, love, and happiness. After the wedding festivities, James and I went on our honeymoon, and a week later, we returned to our normal lives. I visited my mother's house to share some of the beautiful photos from my wedding. We reminisced about the joyful moments, especially how thrilled my grandparents were during the ceremony. While we were chatting, Minnie unexpectedly showed up. As I spoke to my mom about the happiness from our wedding, Minnie interrupted and abruptly asked if James and I were experiencing any financial difficulties. I chuckled at her question and shared that my new job pays significantly more than my previous one, and that James was also doing quite well professionally. However, instead of accepting my answer, Minnie made a mocking comment, suggesting that perhaps my financial situation wasn't as good as I claimed, especially since I chose to have our wedding in our parents' backyard. My mother defended me immediately, explaining that there was nothing wrong with having a backyard wedding and that it was a choice I made because I wanted a more intimate celebration. I echoed my mother's sentiments, letting Minnie know that both James and I preferred simplicity over extravagance, even with our higher income. We believed in using our resources wisely, rather than wasting money on unnecessary display. Minnie seemed offended by my response. She accused me of trying to show off and even suggested I was lying about my salary. I shook my head in disbelief, asserting that I had no intention of impressing her with my financial status. I reminded her that we weren't children anymore and that it was time for her to grow up and stop jumping to conclusions or spreading falsehoods about me. I reiterated that this was precisely why I was relieved she hadn't attended my wedding. This statement clearly upset her, and she left the room in tears. My mother attempted to calm the situation, but Minnie wouldn't hear it. Afterward, Minnie told my grandparents and some of my cousins about our argument, claiming I was glad she missed my wedding, among other things from our fight. I did send her a text message to apologize, hoping to mend our relationship, but she chose not to respond. Over the years, I have made an effort to avoid her as much as possible, although there have been a few moments when things seemed fine between us. James, however, did not take a liking to Minnie from the start. This was mainly because she frequently made jokes at his expense. For instance, James and I both enjoy watching Disney movies, but she often dismissed them as boring and suggested that he might not be manly enough for liking them. I took great offense to her remarks, and although she later apologized, the damage was done. I recently learned that Minnie had expressed to my mother that she felt James was trying to control my life. When my mother confronted Minnie about this, she claimed that she had a bad feeling about James each time they met. One day at lunch, Minnie shared that she was dealing with her own problems involving her boyfriend, Larry. She explained that Larry had moved in but lost his job just 2 months later. Since then, he had not found another job or contributed financially in any way. I firmly told Minnie that she needed to consider kicking Larry out since he wasn't helping with their household expenses. In response, she pointed out that since I earned more than James, did that mean I should kick him out too? I clarified that while it was true that my salary was higher, James also made a decent income on his own, and together we managed our finances well. He was not just sitting around doing nothing. My mother added that James had even sacrificed parts of his own career to support my pursuit of a higher-paying job. Minnie took offense to that remark and claimed that men should always be the primary earners, stating that it was odd for James to accept this arrangement. I countered her view, saying that not every man struggles with fragile egos like the one she had been with. James accepted me for who I am and supported my choices. Unfortunately, Minnie remained stuck in her ways. She eventually married Larry, even though he continued to be unemployed. We witnessed Larry's temper during their wedding when he got drunk and started a fight with a waiter. It took Minnie and some of his brothers to calm him down. The whole situation was just another glimpse into the turmoil that seemed to follow her choices. It was a deeply embarrassing moment for me, and I felt a wave of fear for Minnie. I understood, however, that she was not likely to heed my concerns, so I chose to remain silent. Over time, I began to notice that the arguments between Minnie and Larry had increased significantly. Each time they fought, Larry would kick her out of their shared home, which forced Minnie to come and stay at our parents' place. My parents were also worried about her well-being, but Minnie was adamant about not discussing her issues with them. One day, we received some distressing news from Larry's mother. She informed us that Minnie had reportedly cheated on Larry with one of her co-workers, which led to a massive fight between them. Although they experienced this turmoil in their relationship, they ultimately decided to try and work through their marriage. In fact, they even began attending couples counseling to help resolve their differences. This year has been a whirlwind for me as I found out I am pregnant. My husband, James, and I were ecstatic at the news, and our parents were overjoyed as well. They congratulated us and expressed how proud they felt about becoming grandparents soon. They promised to support us every step of the way during this exciting journey. Shortly after hearing about my pregnancy, Minnie approached me along with James, eager to discuss baby names. She seemed genuinely interested in helping us, but I could not shake off my reservations. Given her tendency to be quite judgmental, I felt uncomfortable sharing our name ideas. Therefore, I firmly told her no, explaining that we would not be revealing any names until the baby was born and the name was officially chosen. Unfortunately, Minnie was quite insistent, suggesting that it was a terrible idea to keep the names a secret. She urged us to discuss our options with other family members so we could choose the best name. I stood my ground, explaining that this was our baby, and we would name it however we wished without outside interference. As my baby shower approached, I asked my mother to handle all the arrangements. I trusted her taste and preferred not to plan the event myself. Additionally, I requested that she ask everyone not to bring gifts since we hadn't determined the baby's gender yet. I simply wanted to enjoy a pleasant gathering with my friends, as it had been so long since we had all been together, and I was eager to gather tips about motherhood. On the day of the baby shower, I was pleasantly surprised to see that my mother had invited only my closest friends, which was perfect. There were plenty of non-alcoholic drinks available for everyone, and I was in high spirits, catching up with my friends. This happy atmosphere took a sudden turn when Minnie arrived wearing a shirt that read, "Godmother-to-be." My eyes widened in shock. The last thing I wanted was for Minnie to be my baby's godmother. It felt awkward as she kept telling everyone how she had always dreamed of being a godmother, yet she had never even discussed it with me. As the day went on, my mother invited my husband, my father, and Larry to join us later in the afternoon for a special event, the gender reveal cake cutting. When James and I cut the cake together, we were stunned to learn we were having a baby boy. Tears of joy streamed down my face as my friends rushed over to hug me in excitement. Just as I was soaking in the joyful moment, Minnie suddenly stood up, announcing that she had something crucial to say. The room fell silent, and everyone turned to her with curiosity in their eyes. Minnie appeared very serious as she brought out a document and displayed it for everyone to see. In a dramatic tone, she declared that I had, apparently, taken a paternity test a few days prior and found out that James was not the father of my baby. She proclaimed that the test results pointed to a different father altogether. A heavy silence enveloped the room, and my husband, James, looked visibly disturbed. He turned to me, confusion etched on his face, and asked if what Minnie was saying was true. I shook my head in disbelief and looked at Minnie, expecting her to clarify her shocking statement. My mother, without hesitation, asked Minnie what on earth she was doing, demanding to know why she would make up such absurd claims. My mother snatched the document from Minnie's hands and pointed out that the mother's name listed on it didn't even have my name. That was when Minnie erupted in laughter. My friend stared at me, bewildered, as she revealed with a smug expression that she had downloaded a fake paternity test from the internet and concocted this plan to make a point. To support her argument, she boldly claimed that she wanted to reveal James's true nature, insisting that he had been abusive towards me. The entire room fell silent, filled with shock and disbelief at her accusation. I turned to Minnie, questioning her mental state, as my husband had never raised his voice at me in anger or displayed any abusive behavior. In response, she went on to assert that no man could be genuinely happy if his partner earned more money than he did. She claimed she had suspected for a long time that he was extremely controlling, and she started sharing random examples she believed supported her view. One of her points included how James had reacted angrily when she announced the paternity test publicly. In a moment of frustration, I yelled back at her, explaining that James's anger was entirely justified, as she had publicly humiliated me by stating that my child didn't belong to him. I reiterated how my husband had never abused me or locked me out of our home, emphasizing that her claims seemed to stem from her own issues rather than reality. As I spoke, I could see Minnie's face turning red with embarrassment. I continued my confrontation by expressing how tired I was of her lifelong jealousy towards me and how her actions at my baby shower were disgusting. I called attention to her history of lying about me to my ex-boyfriends, revealing the truth to the guests present. Minnie stood there, looking utterly humiliated. My mother intervened, criticizing her actions and saying she had gone too far this time. Suddenly, in the tense silence that followed, her husband Larry, who had remained quiet until then, stood up. To everyone's surprise, he walked over to Minnie and handed her some documents. The atmosphere shifted dramatically from discomfort to chaos, with many guests eagerly questioning Larry about what he had just presented. He explained that the marriage counseling they had been attending was unsuccessful and had led him to realize that they were toxic for each other. He revealed that he had been contemplating divorce for some time and intended to hand her the divorce papers that night. However, due to her penchant for drama, he could no longer stand being around her and chose to leave the baby shower instead. The room fell into an uneasy silence as Larry's revelation hung heavily in the air, leaving guests exchanging awkward glances, unsure of how to react to this unexpected turn of events. Minnie stood rooted in place, stunned and speechless, clutching the divorce papers like a lifeline. Rather than succeeding in overshadowing my special day, her antics had backfired, leading to the unraveling of her own marriage. What was supposed to be a joyful occasion for celebration quickly transformed into a somber affair, as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Feeling overwhelmed by the unfolding drama, I decided I had enough. I asked James to take me away from the event, and he agreed without hesitation. I hugged my mother goodbye, and she promised to check in on me later. Minnie attempted to approach me to apologize, but I didn't even glance in her direction. My mind was racing with thoughts and emotions, as you can imagine, and word of the incident spread quickly among our friends and family. Since then, I have been receiving numerous calls from people concerned about my well-being. Some have informed me that after I left, Minnie broke down in tears, and my parents had to kick her out of the event, refusing to listen to her pleas. I felt a twinge of pity for her. She had now lost not only me and my parents but also her husband. While I felt somewhat guilty for shouting at her, I also believed it was justified given the circumstances. I found myself questioning whether I was wrong for exposing her jealousy in front of everyone after she attempted to create a fake story about the paternity test. In an update, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who took the time to read and respond to my story. The overwhelming support, empathy, and shared experiences I have received over the past week have been deeply touching. I have never posted on Reddit before, but the bizarre and vile nature of my sister's actions compelled me to seek outside perspectives. I agree with some of your comments about my sister needing professional help. I also believe it is essential for me to have a serious conversation with my parents about her behavior and make the decision to cut her off for good. I cannot allow her to act inappropriately around my baby. It has been a month since I last provided an update. I did speak with my parents regarding my sister, and they are on board with the idea that it's best for all of us to completely sever ties with her. My sister, Minnie, shows no remorse for her actions and has gone around telling others that I overreacted to her prank. She even claims that I brought up her past in front of her husband, which she suggests led to their divorce. Larry, her now ex-husband, has spoken with my parents and apologized for how he treated Minnie. He explained that the reason he would kick her out of their home was not due to abuse, but because she would often hit him during their arguments. This was shocking to us because I had always thought Larry was at fault. He even showed us pictures of his injuries, including a broken nose and a black eye. It is fortunate that Larry cared for Minnie enough not to involve the police, otherwise, she could have ended up in jail. Clearly, their relationship was toxic, and I feel relieved that they are getting a divorce. My parents have spoken firmly with Minnie, saying that she is not welcome in their home or mine anymore. When she heard this, Minnie started crying, but my mom was so upset with her actions at my baby shower that she confronted Minnie aggressively. My mom warned Minnie that if she were to come near me or my baby again, we would get a restraining order against her. My parents also insisted that she needs to see a psychiatrist, as something is evidently wrong with her. Minnie has refused to seek help and even accused my parents of being unfair and favoring me over her. I have blocked Minnie on all platforms, and James has done the same. For our safety, we have installed security cameras at our home. If she ever tries to come over, I will not hesitate to call the police. It has now been 8 months since my last update, and I am excited to share that I recently gave birth to my baby boy. The pregnancy was challenging, but I am incredibly thankful that our child is finally here. We named him Alex, and I still can't believe I am now a mother. Our home is filled with the joyful sounds of our little one. James and I are adapting to our new responsibilities as parents, and despite the difficulties, we are truly enjoying every moment with Alex. My parents have been a tremendous support as I learn to take on this new role. James's parents are planning to visit us next month, which we are looking forward to. As for Minnie, she has not disturbed us at all. The last I heard, she and Larry finalized their divorce, and she decided to move to a different city. While I do feel a bit sad that my sister cannot be part of this joyous occasion, my priority is to protect my child above all else.